I love about it is I had not been on a bike in like 25 years, okay? So here I am along with my team spearheading this fundraiser to raise awareness about the idea of the Southwest Trail. And I got in my Lexus, SUV, four-wheel drive thing and drove down to the river to check it out. And of course, I'm wearing heels usually. I'm down there stomping around with these people, and next thing you know, we've got an event that draws over 100 people from Benton on a tornado watch evening, okay? Had to move it from outside to inside, but we still had lots of people roll out for this because they saw our flyer, they saw what we were doing on social media and that kind of thing, and they were really excited about it. And it was just a concept. So since then, we did form a nonprofit. It's called Friends of the Southwest Trail, and Kayla Burnett, who raised her hand earlier, welcome Kayla. Her husband Cody Burnett, and she attended our fundraiser event. This was almost 3 years ago. I met her there. They volunteered to help get this nonprofit started, and Kayla brought some flyers today that can tell you a little bit about Friends of the Southwest Trail. Those are on the table. There's a Facebook page for the Friends of the Southwest Trail, and Judge Ari will probably mention some other things. But if you get a chance when you're at your Kroger, other places, you can pick up this magazine, Bike, and it talks a lot about trail development in Arkansas. There's just a lot of great, health benefits of getting outside, your vitamin D, vitamin C, right? Your brain, I know from working in mental health, your brain needs physical activity. Our children need activities around this area. We're in one of the highest rates of obesity and diabetes in the country here in Arkansas. And so what this can do is allow our children a free place to go and exercise, to just hang out, to be safe, to be with their families or their friends. But also what it does that I love, and again, I'm not going to talk all day. I do love a stage. How do I say it? It brings attention to and awareness of our history, which is our culture here in Saline County. The Southwest Trail, as you know, hopefully if you don't, I'll touch on it. It's a trail that spans from, up in Missouri all the way through Arkansas and across the state. It crosses in an area that Judge Ari will talk about, but it's how the settlers first came through this part of the country. And so to have that memorialized in a trail that everyone here can use and others from around the country or the world can come and visit, I think it's just a really cool thing to get to be part of. So I want to welcome our special guest today, Judge Jeff Ari. He's our Saline County judge. He's been in this office for 5 years, but he's been in public service for over 21 years and owned a business for 30 years. He has a wonderful family, lots of heritage for him to protect here, and I just appreciate him being willing to come and speak to us today. So welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for inviting me here today. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. I love your motivational and your theme here, empowering innovation through motivation. That's awesome. I'm motivated as soon as I walked in here. I was excited to be invited to a Women in Networking because I was told I would get to come in and have all of you beautiful ladies all by myself, and then 2 guys show up. So I was just like, oh, devastated. Don't get the whole thing by myself.
My wife's here. I'm not a threat.
Okay, I got it. Well, thank you again for inviting me here today. And I told Sarah at the beginning, I said, I think I got another meeting scheduled right about that same time, so I'm not sure I can show up, and then maybe for a little bit. And then, so now I told her a while ago, I actually have more time than what I thought. I say all that to say, I don't know how well prepared I am to actually talk about Southwest Trail today, but I can probably, it's a project we've been working on for a number of years, so I think I'll be fine. So I'm going to talk in general about that, and then I really want to just open it up for questions, whether it's about questions with regard to Southwest Trail or really any project that would be at least county related or that I would be involved in. I'll certainly be more than welcome to try to answer questions that you may have. And it could be just like, what do you really do in your job every day? Because most people don't really know what a county judge actually does. In fact, normally when I get introduced to someone and they tell, you know, this is a county judge in Saline County, they go, oh, I hope I don't get any tickets, or I hope I don't get arrested. Well, I'm not that kind of judge. So I'm not a judge that sits on a bench every day that wears the robes and bangs the gavel. In fact, I don't do any of that at all. It's a terrible title for what my job description actually is, because I'm not a judge, I'm not even an attorney in that matter. But a county judge is more on the same level as a mayor of a certain city, so to speak. That's kind of what we actually are. So anything to do with county finances or county property or the maintenance of that county property, that's in my wheelhouse, as well as emergency services like 911 and those kind of things. So that's kind of in general. So it's about 10 different departments that I'm responsible for. Of course, the one that everybody really knows is roads. So if it's county roads, yeah, unfortunately, that's me. So all the potholes out there, yeah, those are all my fault. So anyway, so let's just talk in general about the Southwest Trail. By a show of hands, how many have actually heard about this recreational trail, this proposed recreational trail? Okay. So I'll give a brief little bit of history, kind of how this whole thing came up, because some of y'all didn't raise your hands. So probably in 2012, this idea came up about a recreational trail that would lead from City of Little Rock all the way into downtown Hot Springs. And it was really born from the three county judges of Pulaski County, Saline County, and Garland County. And back then, those three judges were Buddy Valines in Pulaski County, Lanny Fight in Saline County, and Rick Davis in Garland County. And so they basically put together a memorandum of understanding that real simply said the three counties would work together in trying to develop this recreational trail that would go along that general route. Now, if you look on a map that I handed out a while ago, you'll see just like a real general map or alignment that goes from the City of Little Rock through Benton to Hot Springs. And it's really a general alignment. Now, the original idea was for the recreational trail to actually take advantage of the abandoned railroad right-of-way of Rock Island Railroad. And while that is a good idea because it would be be able to build a trail on that, the problem is that through Saline County and Garland County, all of that abandoned railroad right-of-way has either been purchased or reverted back to the landowners, either that are surrounding it or some landowner has purchased that particular right-of-way. So, to be honest with you, we're in the very early stages, even though it started being talked about in 2012, and here we are in 2019. We're still early in on this project and just trying to figure out the alignment of actually where it could possibly go. And the first thing that's going on, and it's been going on now for almost, but not quite a year, is an environmental assessment to try to determine what the impacts could be through certain routes, and then trying to narrow down the different areas that would have the least significant impact on a lot of different measures. It gets a little bit crazy when we talk about that. And the reason we're doing that first is because the monies that we have to help design the trail are actually that came through federal grants. There's a flat grant that Pulaski County, Garland County, and Saline County were successful in obtaining about 2 years ago. Flat grant meaning Federal Land Access Program. And so the idea is to actually link two federally controlled properties, that being Central High, which is a national historic place, and then National Park, downtown Hot Springs. And we're going to link them through the Old River Bridge that's at the end of River Street and River Road. They're just what would be west of Benton. Okay, does everybody kind of know where the Old River Bridge area is? It's kind of in between Benton and Haskell. Okay, and it crosses the river. So there was an Old River Bridge there, and it's actually the second oldest existing bridge in the state of Arkansas that wasn't in existence as a travel route for vehicles until 1972 when a concrete truck from Malvern tried to pack, concrete block trucks fell through it basically. And so it's been out of commission ever since, but there's been a large contingent of people, historians mainly, who have always wanted to renovate this bridge and put it back into existence of some kind. And so those 3 points that I talked about right there, Central High, the Old River Bridge, and Hot Springs National Park, those are the 3 points that we know are going to be part of the trail. That's what we do know. What we don't know is everywhere in between, to be honest with you, okay? There's been nobody knows exactly where that would be. Now, there's a lot of people that maybe live on the trail or propose work. I mean, I shouldn't say the trail because we don't know what the trail's going to be. The old Rock Island Railroad, for example. There's a lot of people that would love to see it on the old Rock Island Railroad and not have it on a street or a county road or near a highway. Certainly those that are bike enthusiasts would rather be off the road or not on the road. But again, we have to work with those particular property owners who are actually in ownership of that particular area. Because if they're not willing to work with us and actually either give us or sell us easement or sell us their property, then we'll have to move it to another position or another route. Now, I do have power of eminent domain, okay? I can do those things as powers of mine as being a county judge, but I can tell you, certainly this Saline County judge has I'm not going to use power of eminent domain to build a recreational trail. I don't think it's right. I don't think it would be very popular for the trail and the overall project, and it certainly wouldn't be popular with those property owners and those constituents that live in Saline County. And I can promise you the other county judges in the other counties feel the exact same way. So, that being said, we don't know where this trail is going to actually be, but it could be, and we do believe there are some property owners out there that are willing to work with us that own part of that Rock Island Railroad right of way. So we do believe in some sections it will be on there. And then the other places, it's going to have to find another route, possibly a city road or a county road, or along within the right of way of a highway. Certainly one of those areas would be Highway 70. We've written down Highway 70 lately since all the new construction has been completed. So part of that new construction, when they started that project a couple of years ago, I met with the highway department because they had so much right of way, and we worked out an agreement along Saline County side, which would be in the Saline County areas of Highway 70, and if you're going towards Hot Springs, the left side or the south side of Highway 70, there has been some infrastructure put in there. It's not, you can't really tell it unless you're really good at looking at it, that would allow for a bike path to go along that route. It's not up next to the road, it's actually away from the road at a different elevation of the road, but you can see where there's been a lot of groundwork done to put in about a 10 to 14 foot wide path along that area that we could go ahead and easily develop later when we get to that point. Let me say one other thing about the name. We always keep referring to this as the Southwest Trail, and since the beginning of 2012 when the 3 judges started talking about that, that's just the name that they put in there. But there's been no official adoption of any name of the trail. And for some historians out there who are very familiar with the different routes of the Southwest Trail, which, like Sarah said, people used back in the early 1800s to get from St. Louis down into Texas. This bike path probably won't follow the exact or one of the routes of the Southwest Trail, but it will be on some of that route, certainly because we know that area of the Old River Bridge was one of those routes that was taken by those people that used the Southwest Trail back in the 1800s. But I can tell you with regard to the name, and other county judges I think would agree with me, if there's any individual or some kind of foundation out there that wants to bring in about $40 million to build this project, we will be happy to name it whatever it is that we want to name it. But until that time, everybody's just going to be calling it the Southwest Trail. It could be the Greenway, the Southwest Trail, recreational trail. I don't really know what it would look like or sound, what it would actually be. Let's put it that way. One of the things that the 3 county judges that are in place now, we did back when we first got in office. I got in office in 2015. I was familiar with the project because I was the mayor of a small town in Saline County for years down in Haskell. So I was familiar with the idea of the project. One of the things that we did when we got in office in 2015, meaning Judge Barry Hyde and myself, was we we commissioned an economic development study that was done by Alta Planning Services, who has built trails all over the nation. What I was interested in was what kind of economic development impact this could possibly even have on our area, and Barry was the same way. So I'm not going to, that report is 100 pages long, so I'm not going to go into it, but I'm going to just tell you some highlights that I've noted here. So job creation, an estimated $26.6 million in construction expenditures, supporting 320 direct jobs from the construction of a trail, and 130 indirect jobs from materials and manufacturing. $2 million in total tourism expenditures, resulting in 27 jobs induced every single year. So health impact, the health impact alone, $5 million per year in healthcare cost reductions from 1,600 new exercises. And an economic impact of $22 million in property value increases from proximity, from those people that live within proximity of the trail. 160,000 per year increase in property tax revenues, 1.2 million in tourism spending, and 20,000 new visitors to the trail every single year. 2.2 million in aggregate value to users each year from 1.2 million new uses. So the transportation impact, Southwest Trail provides safe, affordable means of active transportation to existing and planned schools, commercial, and employment centers and neighborhoods throughout the counties. So a lot of times people would refer to this trail as just being a trail for cyclists. And I can tell you that while cyclists are certainly going to find it very, very popular, in my opinion, that's not going to be the biggest user of the trail. The biggest user of the trail, in my opinion, is going to be those that are just connectivity from neighborhoods to neighborhoods. Short uses, less than a mile in some cases. It will happen. People are going to form events, go to each other's homes, go back and forth to either their kids using it to go back and forth to school or even to work. And I know that sounds a little unfathomable to us when we're so used to driving a vehicle, but I can tell you, you can go to communities that have built these recreational trails in other parts of the country, and they'll tell you what it looked like before, and they'll tell you what it looks like now. And that will happen. I can tell you, we did not have a sidewalk anywhere in the little town of Haskell back in 1999. You know, 10 years later, we were able to put together a program, it's called Safe Routes to School, and our target was to simply look at the neighborhoods within a 1 mile area area of our school and try to connect just a simple sidewalk that would go from those neighborhoods to Harmony Grove School, just so those kids could be able to walk or ride a bike to school safely and stay off of the highway or the road. It transformed, in my opinion, the neighborhood and allowing those kids to be able to get back and forth to school. Because in some cases, some small school districts, they don't pick up within a 1 mile area of their particular school campus with a bus. And so those kids were either having to walk down the side of the highway, or their parents were trying to figure out a way to get them to school every morning and back from. So I'm telling you, it changed people's lives, and this trail can do the same thing. So I think the biggest impact really will be the connectivity between our different neighborhoods throughout Saline County, and of course the other counties as well. Yeah, there's going to be some people who get on it in Little Rock and go all the way to Hot Springs. Not me. Not without camping or spending the night somewhere. But there will be those. But again, the biggest, I think the biggest user will be your local, within your local neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood. So where are we at right now with the project? Like I told you a while ago, we got that flat grant that's putting us through an environmental phase and a design phase. It's a $3.5 million grant that we were able to obtain from the U.S. government. That process is probably going to take 2 years. We're probably almost not quite a year into it, so we've probably got another year to go. And at the end of that period, we hope that we at least identify where this route will actually go. Does that mean that we will own the right-of-way and start construction of the trail? No. It means that we've identified a route where we would like for the trail to go. This grant money that we have gives no money towards obtaining the right-of-way. So how do we get that kind of money? I do not know. Okay. But what we hope is that we're continuing to be able to be successful in obtaining grants to be able, and or private funding, and have met with and are getting interests from some large national foundations that are out there who are interested in and do invest in this kind of trails because they know infrastructure, I should say, because they know the kind of impact that it can have both economically and socially for those particular neighborhoods. And so we think that we'll continue to be able to be successful. One thing you're not going to be able to do is get monies from foundations unless you're able to identify a route and they know that you're serious about completing the project. And so those are some things that we know, so we're trying to make sure that we complete those steps. Part of the trail that we actually are working on right now here in Saline County is the Old River Bridge that I talked about. So we've also been very successful in obtaining some TAP grants, some Transportation Alternative Program grants for that Old River Bridge project. To date, we're about $2.7 million in grant funding that we've got for that project. We've already started phase one. We initially said we'd do it in 4 phases. First phase being we would actually go out, we would take the bridge down and disassemble it. We've done that phase. The second phase would be to put new pilings into the river because we don't want to rehab a bridge on old pilings that were actually built in the 1890s. That's when that bridge was built. So we're gonna. That's the next step is to put the bridge pilings in there. We're going to start on that this summer, and then we would actually come back with the rehab parts of the bridge, assemble it, and put it back up on the new piers. That would be stage 3, and then stage 4 would be to build the approaches and deck the bridge. Now this bridge is going to be a walking, pedestrian, bicyclist bridge only. There'll be no vehicles and cars go across the bridge. There is a nonprofit group that has several acres, I couldn't tell you exactly, the Sling Crossing group that has either been given or been able to purchase several acres on both sides of the river in and around the bridge, and they have hopes of one day developing a park in that area, which will certainly be a great amenity of the Southwest Trail once it goes through that area. A great place and almost really a destination spot to go see this bridge, which, by the way, I called it the second oldest bridge, which is true, but once we put it back in place, it'll actually be the oldest bridge in its original location in the state of Arkansas. Because the oldest bridge, they call themselves the oldest bridge, but it's in a different location, is actually in Fulton County. So once we get this back in place, believe me, I will take advantage of saying that is the oldest bridge in its original location in the state of Arkansas. And we know that it's going to become not only a destination people want to see in the state of Arkansas, but probably across the nation. So that's kind of where we're at with the Southwest Trail. Like I said, very early stages of that, but we're continuing to work on it some every single day. In fact, 3 judges and I have a meeting next week, and we have regular meetings on it pretty much on a monthly basis. And some of it's just little bits at a time, but this is a big project going through 3 different states, covering what's going to be probably around 65 miles. Also, the different jurisdictions. I mentioned 3 counties, but I'm not talking about the municipalities. But when you involve the city of Little Rock, city of Shannon Hills, city of Bauxite, city of Benton, Bryant, Haskell, Lonsdale, Hot Springs, you've got a lot of different hoops to jump through because each of those entities, and obviously so, are going to have a great impact and a great input on where it is their trail is going to go within their particular jurisdiction, and also be responsible for coming up with the funding for that, as well as the maintenance of that. So it's a big project, but it's an exciting project, and I think it can do great things for Central Arkansas and Saline County, Garden County, and Pulaski. I'd really just like to open it up for questions, and we can open questions. Good, so some hands come up right off the bat. On this project, really, and then maybe on any project or just a question in general. So I think you had your hand up first. Yes, ma'am.
I love the bike, backpack, and camp. And if I'm going to go from Little Rock to Hot Springs, which I would probably be one of those people that would love to do that, I would probably have to camp somewhere along the way because I don't think I could make it today.
Sure.
So if I'm going to camp somewhere on the trail, I want to be safe. Safe from public, people that
it's a great question. I can tell you that there's not any, we haven't, part of our planning is not included planning on where a campground actually would go here or there. Our thought has simply been on the development of the trail and that trail route. Now, I can tell you just by visiting other trails across the country that you see things happen, there could be anything from a private property owner to a municipality or county who does develop trails along the area. I mean, certainly one I just talked about is the one at the river area down there, and that's going to develop into a park. Now, whether that nonprofit who's going to be actually in control of that park would allow overnight camping, I don't know. I really don't know. But with regard to safety, and you touched on it, because during our public meetings, certainly within the last year, there's been a lot of people, especially property owners in the proximity of the trail, who, and rightfully so, have been concerned about safety. They're worried about who, because they don't know, who is going behind their home on this trail. If the trail happened to go behind their house, that concerns them, stranger danger, okay? I mean, and I get that, and rightfully so, they should be asking those questions. So my answer to them is a couple of things. One, I think you need to go ahead and do your own research, and I encourage them to do this. Do your own research with regard to these trails all across the country and how safe they are, or if they brought in crime or not. And I think you're going to find, once you do your research, that it's really almost non-existent. In fact, if anything, and I can tell you there's an area down in Atlanta, and it's an urban trail, okay, that was built. It was crime-ridden, okay? And the reason it was crime-ridden, at least by the people that live there, is because they were so isolated that there wasn't a lot of people there. But a lot of times what they find out is the more eyes that you particularly put through an area, what you see is less crime and less vandalism, because people are not going to do it because somebody would see them, just that kind of thing. So that was I would think you need to I would encourage all of y'all to just go look and do your own research with regard to safety of recreational trails like this. The other thing is, most people live on a road. Who does not live on a road? I challenge you to raise your hand. Nobody raised your hand, okay. So we all live on a road, right? Do we know every single person that goes up and down that road? I mean, do you know everybody that goes up and down that road? No. Okay. So we're concerned about the stranger danger on a trail, but we're not concerned about the person driving down the highway or the road in front of us, because anybody can drive up and down that road. And I can tell you this, most people with bad intentions, and I'm going to say the bad ones, murder, rape, okay, breaking and entering, okay, they're not jogging to your house or riding on a bicycle, okay, they're driving a car. So think about it. You had a question?
Yes. Are the three county judges working together as a unit, or is each judge responsible for his own county? And also, will it be mostly professionally built as opposed to community effort?
Good question. So yes, we are working together on the overall 50,000-foot view of the project, but we know, as well as all the mayors of those particular municipalities, they're all going to be responsible for their own development of that particular trail, okay? Most grants that you get do have to have some kind of local match. So whether that local match comes from within your own city or county finances, or whether that local match comes from your own, from a nonprofit that you're able to work an agreement with, then you're going to have to provide that local match for the development of that trail within your jurisdiction. One thing that we are all working on, though, is an overall, basically a trail standards, okay? Because we want the trail to look the same whether you're in Placid County, Garland County, Saline County. So there's different design models depending on where you're at, okay? So let's say you're off-road on part of the Rock Island Railroad. We have a design for what that trail should look like there.